Alex Jones. We're going to be here live in studio with massively important breaking news over the next 4 hours. But first, an extremely powerful report filed by John Bown. The Clinton Foundation basically owns and runs the FBI leadership.
Attorney General Loretta Lynch was on the Hill today in front of the House Judiciary Committee at an oversight hearing on Justice Department operations. Regarding those operations, Attorney General Lynch stonewalled the committee with non-answers and legal diversion.
Director Comey stated that there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information. Do you agree with Director Comey's statement?
Again, I would refer you to Director Comey for any further explanation as to the basis for his recommendations. The recommendation that I received from the team, including Director Comey, was that the investigation be resolved without charges.
Director Comey made a recommendation, but he made a recommendation to the Department of Justice, which you head, and you would have to come to the final conclusion on whether or not to act. I would presume that before you acted, you would look at his conclusions and determine whether you agreed with them or not.
Meanwhile, the Democrats used the opportunity to promote gun control.
There is an epidemic of gun violence. And how has the majority in Congress responded? With emergency hearings about Hillary Clinton's and Lois Lerner's emails.
Democratic Congressman Hank Johnson weighed in on the Democrats' perception that the hearings were unimportant to the protection of national security.
My colleagues on the other side of the aisle don't. They're just tone deaf, and they insist on chasing rabbits down holes by trying to make some hay out of something that this is over with.
You may remember Johnson once expressed concern over Guam tipping over.
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
But Lynch could not avoid the clarity surrounding her decision to speak with Bill Clinton days before the decision and her declaration to support the FBI's investigation before the investigation was closed.
You have a conversation with the former president, the husband of the subject of an ongoing investigation, and you have that conversation before they've interviewed the subject and before they've reached their recommendations and finished their investigation. That's what triggered you to do this thing you've never done before, which is announce, I don't care what they recommend, I'm going to follow it.
My concern was that the conversation that I had with President Clinton would be seen by some as having an influence over that. I felt it was important to clarify.
Just some, General Lynch, a lot of people.
But now, as Kurt Nimmo writes, FBI Director James Comey's past and present employment as director of HSBC's holdings and subsequent promotion to independent non-executive director and a member of the Financial System Vulnerabilities Committee, an appointment set to expire this year, clearly has blatant ties to the Clinton Foundation. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte of Virginia and committee member Representative Trey Gowdy of South Carolina want to know if the emails that were deleted and recovered by the FBI had anything to do with the Clinton Foundation. The Mexican drug cartel money laundering Swiss bank, HSBC, is connected to the Clinton Foundation through a number of initiatives, including its Building the Corporate Coalition, investing in management and leadership in Vietnam, and other American economy destroying free trade agreement projects. Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, and a number of transnational corporations also participate. The Clintons have used the foundation to enrich themselves. Documents disclosed through litigation by Judicial Watch provided a roadmap for over 200 conflict of interest rulings that led to at least $48 million in speaking fees for the Clintons during Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton and her aides were involved in fundraising for the foundation, and she turned the State Department into the D.C. office of the Clinton Foundation, something she will now do to the White House. What will it take to convince every American citizen that they are being scammed at the highest levels? In my next report, I will be digging into Comey's involvement into Whitewater. Comey's protection of the Clinton corruption machine goes way back. John Bown for Infowars.com.
Get ready, start your engine. Roger Stone is joining us at the bottom of the hour. we'll probably know by tomorrow morning who the vice presidential pick of Donald J. Trump is going to be. CNN is basically admitting that different Soros-funded groups are going to be in Cleveland trying to destabilize things and take the spotlight away from what Donald Trump is actually saying inside. I'm going to be kicking off the first big rally on Monday there with Roger Stone and others. And believe me, it's a rally you're going to want to be at. I'm just going to leave it at that. This is a historic time we're in, to say the least. And I really am going to try to be more news intensive, especially in the first hour. A lot of days I tend to go off into a larger general discussion and then start parsing out news in the second, third, and fourth hour. But there's so much news breaking as we go. I don't have a program director. I'm the program director. I personally want to try to thematically focus in on a few big issues up front and hit a ton of news in the first hour. So we're going to do that right now. UN invites Black Lives Matter to event. UN rights expert cites structural and institutional racism in the U.S. That's CNS News. The UN runs Black Lives Matter through the Open Border Foundation, Open Society Foundation that Soros puts billions into. Billions with a B. So, of course, they're part of the UN. It's the Strong Cities Initiative. This is the big one here. University student who criticized Black Lives Matter faces expulsion, death threats. And this is from the University of Purdue. He said that Black Lives Matter just wants to raise a bunch of money and is trash in his view, creating division. The person is pretty much a liberal and is gay. But it doesn't matter whether they're conservative or libertarian or who they are. You have a right on your own Facebook. You're not calling for violence. Black Lives Matter can call for violence. And do all this other stuff. And that's sweet and cute and okay. But if you then use your free speech, you're kicked out of school. We're going to be getting into the latest on Black Lives Matter. Black rapper tells the truth about Black Lives Matter, then gets threatened. That's to take down his tweets. And all he said was all lives matter, and we need to talk about the fact that 9 out of 10 blacks are killed by other black people. So, of course, he had to shut up for that. Cops walk out of security duty at basketball game when players come out in anti-cop gear. Indoctrination, watch 14-year-old perform white boy privilege poem. This is what the public schools teach. I learned even mainline girls' camps, their camouflages, art camps and stuff here in Austin, Texas. You go in like hardcore sensitivity brainwash training to help girls find their identity of chip on their shoulders, hate the men. I mean, this is a full push, folks. Corporately run. Going to scapegoat poor minorities and people, but it's globalist run. CBS Chicago, white woman walks in black neighborhood saying, "I'm sorry, Black America." Wow. Talk about mental illness. So that's just some of that coming up. Resettlement of Syrian refugees in the U.S. accelerates to massive levels. And it's being covered up by the media, but we're going to break that down. But the Wall Street Journal uses the word accelerates. A bunch of anti-gun activities going on. Easier for a teenager to get his hands on a Glock than a computer or even a book, says Obama. That's the Washington Times. Meanwhile, you actually go into the statistics, gun homicides are down in U.S. 40% from 93 to 2014, lowest in 34 years. They were down 61%, but they've actually, the rate has dropped some as they're going back up a little bit because of the depression and the police slow rolling into some neighborhoods that have drug problems. So there's a lot of things added to that. But first off, Donald Trump in a whole bunch of different polls, scientific polls, in key battleground swing states is ahead. That's what I told you 2 weeks ago from our Trump sources that are not just Stone. I want to add that. He, though, concurred. We already knew these numbers, but it's in Politico today, basically on those very polls. So that's very, very important. Trump has a very good shot at winning if there isn't election fraud. They just want to tell you he can't win. So if they do steal the election, everybody will basically somehow believe it and at least have plausible doubt in their minds. The big enchilada for me personally to focus on, though, in the next few weeks is to really reach out to Bernie Sanders supporters, not the hardcore socialists, but people that were supporting Sanders to go after crony capitalism, and folks that were doing it as a protest vote, which they estimate's about 30–40% of the Sanders supporters. A lot of my listeners, I learned, out on the street shaking my hand, are wearing Bernie shirts. And I went to Taco Deli, and like 4 people were wearing them. And you found out they're listeners. And they're like, hey, we know Sanders isn't perfect, but we just want some change. A lot of Ron Paul supporters have become Sanders supporters. Well, now he's signed on to the Goldman Sachs goddess. And he's totally sold out his constituency. And so unless you're a moron cult leader or a cult follower, how would you not support Donald Trump, who all the big money are against, who all the big party officials in both parties are against? They've pulled out all the stops. They now have judges saying, oh, we can't actually take delegates from Trump and give them to the Republicans. I told you, they're going to pull it next week. They're going to try. They already are. I think they're going to fail, because Trump supporters were not so brainwashed as Sanders supporters. They didn't put up with people just claiming, hey, we're super delegates, the party can decide, we're the, quote, sovereigns of the party, as George Will wrote for the Washington Post. Libertarian, populist, conservatives, constitutionalists rejected it, filed lawsuits, got angry, took action, and the party had to back off. I said they'd double back at the convention. They're going to have some new dirt they drop, new scandals they claim that are so shameful, so bad. It'll be a hoax. But just for the day or two before it's discovered that it's a hoax, they'll have a revolt and take it away from Trump. I'm telling you, that's their plan. I don't need to have inside sources to know it. Stone has recognized and said, and others have, and I know even people high up in the Trump campaign tune into this show to hear my analysis, because I know the enemy, and I know what they're going to do. And, of course, the Trump folks know that, too. They wanted to go, okay, we're the nominee, we're the presumptive. Hey, that whole fight's over, I'm the nominee. So the perception would be the fight was over. I get that, so that when the Republicans try to steal the whole deal, again, it'll be seen as totally illegitimate. The problem is they're going to launch the skeletons they've got in the deep freeze locker Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday. Get ready. It is going to be crazy town. And I'm going to have 8 different people on the ground, our reporters, crew, you name it, in Cleveland. And we're going to be at huge interviews all week, so much. But really, just tactically, we've got to reach out to Sanders supporters and say, your guy really won most of the states. He won California, but Hillary met at a rich person's home with the Associated Press and CNN that basically run voter news services, and they canvassed the superdelegates. And so they, the day before, decided what numbers she would win by. The votes meant nothing. And that was in the news. New York Daily News. It was in Politico. It's just crazy. I'm skipping this network break. All of this is going on. All of this is happening. All of this is unfolding in front of everybody. And I'm sitting here watching all this unfold. You're sitting here watching them steal the election in front of you, and it's a blip on the radar screen with a straight face. Yeah, we met the day before and decided how many votes Hillary would get a day before. I'm going to say that again. Met to decide what number they'd put out on the news the next night. And so then the Associated Press that sends out the numbers to all the other networks, the networks agreed, okay, the day before you met, and then you're going to tell us that night at about 8 or 9, and we'll announce the winner. I mean, they have to hide the fraud in plain view now because it's been exposed. They're just normalizing that, oh, superdelegates decide, not you. And you're going to sit there as Democrats, and you're going to go and vote for Hillary Clinton, who has been a selected candidate. Trump has bucked the system, swam against the tide, upriver, gone through hell, lost hundreds of millions of dollars with them targeting his businesses and companies conservatively, been boycotted, been demonized, been lied about more than anybody I've ever seen in modern history. And he has the entire rotten system of the party leadership in both parties, the big media, the big money, none of them supporting him, all of them absolutely trying to destroy him. You claim you're anti-establishment. You people just want to be part of the establishment. You want the big ultra-rich to just go rob the middle class and give you a few years of wealth.